Hi everyone, Indigoeyesart here. I want to talk about mandalas and explain the meanings that I think that you've not heard before. So, what is a mandala? And like I do the Mandala Mondays, so it's very important for at least my viewers and the other people who are drawing mandalas to know what does it actually mean. But first of all, lately we know that mandalas have become very popular in the Western world. I mean, in the Eastern world, we grow with the mandalas. We draw them on every festival or just almost even every day on the front door to welcome the goodness and prosperity. So, in the Western world, they have become popular as decorative pieces of art and meditative elements also. The use of mandalas has been commercialized a lot in the last few years. But in my observation, people are nowhere close to understanding the philosophy of mandala. So, what is a mandala? What do they signify? I hear a number of definitions for mandala ranging from a sacred circle to a spiritual circle, or people who practice tantra, that is, I don't know, I don't want to go into tantra, but it's like a magic, and more. But simply, mandala is a Sanskrit word, and I should know because I've studied Sanskrit as my first language. It is actually a Sanskrit word which is pronounced mandal. It has been Romanized by British to mandala. So in Sanskrit, a mandal means a circle. For example, in Hindi, we would always say a mahila mandal. Mahila means women, mandal means a circle or a chamber. So when we say mahila mandal, it means the women have organized a circle or it's a chamber of women. So mandals represent the universe and a guide to the path to enlightenment. So basically, coming back and recapping it, mandala is a Sanskrit word meaning circle. It represents the universe. The pattern within the mandala is usually balanced and harmonized, symbolizing how we are all connected and part of the wider universe. So, most my mandalas, I always call them as healing mandalas. People have used different names like a lotus mandala, and they would draw lotus flower in it. But on the broad spectrum, what is a healing mandala? Healing mandala is that we will draw the mandala and you will have an intention of what do you want to heal. And healing could be anything. Healing doesn't mean just the body, the physical ailment. It can be a disease in the body, mind, soul, or it could be healing of the space, a clutter, the home, anything. It could also mean lack of initiative, hate, sadness, anger, and above all, the ignorance of laws of life and your own divinity. And these are the spiritual diseases. Then we can also heal fear, envy, low self esteem. There are various other emotional disharmony. So these all fall in a broad umbrella of a healing mandala that I want to introduce you to it today. And you've already seen a couple of my mandalas on Mondays. A healing mandala is used for insight, healing, and self expression in a circle. It reflects the wholeness of the person creating it or the person using it. You don't have to always create it, but you can use it. This spiritual circle helps promote mindfulness, focus, attention, and it promotes healing. So Carl Jung had described mandala as a representation of the unconscious self, not the conscious but unconscious. And I would say don't take that word for granted or do not take my words for granted. As I always say as a scientist, do it, find it, do the experiment, and then agree or disagree. However, I'm pretty sure when you draw a mandala, a creative art, you will see that your thinking brain is not participating and your unconscious self will bring out the symbols or elements that you didn't even think they existed. So the mandala is purely based on science and it represents the formula of five. Five is solidity, liquidity, mobility, heat, and ether. So it implies the five elements of life, which means earth, water, air, fire, and space. Okay, so similarly, mandala also represents the five senses of the living beings. And it represents the essence of the world, and it reminds in the symbols. It takes the help of the symbols to remind us the virtue of life. The most significant knowledge that the mandala gives is that everything in the universe is temporary, it's impermanent, but it is interdependent, meaning we are all interdependent and we already know how temporary even our life is. So mostly a hand-drawn mandala on the floor. For example, I was born in India, I grew up in Germany, but I grew up with all these things. And like I said, Sanskrit is my first language. So in India, we draw the mandalas on the floor on the festivals or everyday basis. People usually use water. They will use a yellow or a red tikka powder, rice, cereals, legumes, that is the lentils, and flowers to worship it. And the significance of these ritualistic elements, these mark profound metaphors. In short, I can say that water is a refreshment. Yellow tikka symbolizes the sun and open-mindedness. The red tikka is a circle, on the head, on the third eye. So the red indicates consciousness, and flowers represent all living beings. The unbroken rice, the rice in itself is called akshatya, means it represents the world that we create with the word. So these are all tied deeply to emotions. The meaning of all these elements put together is: let us be conscious, compassionate, open minded, pleasant, and fair, because all our lives are given by nature. We are all part of nature. If all the people who want to draw mandala or buy the products with mandalas on them, if they could really understand what this word, the drawing, the symbols mean, imagine how wonderful this world could be. Even during this pandemic, and I think we could get rid of the pandemic, but without the pandemic, even that's the imagination how wonderful the world would be. I hope it's not too late, and maybe the listeners of this video might be able to understand that we are all connected to each other and we are all one. So mandala, like I said, it's a circle, just a simple circle. So what is the significance of a circle? I know this from physics and geometry. Of course, I know it from Sanskrit, but the physics and geometry, if you look at a circle, it tells you a circle has no beginning and it has no end. What does it mean in science? What does it mean? It means it is continuous. It's representing continuity of a cycle. And continuity of a cycle means what? An eternity. This means a circle is representative of divine life force. It represents the universe. It is symbolic of vitality, wholeness, completion, and perfection. In other words, it is a cycle of life and the world. I can go on, but we could translate all those words into basic two words, meaning it represents the infinite nature of energy and that the universe is all inclusive. Okay, a circle protects against chaos and unpredictability. It invites an element of trusting the universe. This is how mandala comes into picture, trusting the universe. It symbolizes the natural order and progression that inspires us to keep going no matter what. A circle holds and contains the energy within itself so that the cycle of growth can exist within them. So basically, circle is a geometric archetype of the psyche. When combined with a square, sometimes I don't always draw a square within the circle, but if you draw a square between the circle, which is square is the archetype of the body, circle is the archetype of psyche, square is the archetype of the body. It explains the relationship or balance between psyche and the body, which we all need, especially during these times. So what's even better is that the circle includes us in the grand scheme. Okay, even we are like a little speck in this entire universe, but we are included. That at least brings solace to my heart. In fact, when a symbol, and it is like any symbol, is shown with a circle around it, That is our intuitive cue. The symbol beckons the viewer to be drawn in and included in the experience of whatever symbolic message that center might hold. So, the circle invites the observer to step inside the sacredness. And the circle is symbolic of mind and thought, yes. And the square of the symbol, what does it represent? It represents a body. Correct. As I explained during my first mandala drawing, because I draw my mandalas basically on a black paper with white pencil, with a white lead pencil. So or a chalk, you can do that. So a black circle represents the ending of a cycle. But the ending of cycle is beginning of a new cycle. So I know that whenever, if I say to people a period is coming to an end and they get all very scared or, they would think, oh, something bad is coming. No, it only means when a cycle ends, a new beginning is taking place. And it can represent also a void or an empty space, but an empty space should be good because it is ready to be filled again, and we can fill it as we want. Thus, a transformation and emergence of a higher self is indicated when we draw a circle on a black paper or on a black, when we draw a black circle. Now, a white circle, because I'm using the white lead pencil, it represents the beginning of a new cycle and opportunities for spiritual growth. What does that represent? It represents purity. It's white in color, white color in most of the tradition. It represents, or white as it is, it also represents purity, perfection, and new life. In a positive context, a white circle represents spiritual evolution and beginning of a new cycle with a higher perspective. So basically, if I have to shorten this in brief, I can say it represents enlightenment, void, and the cycle of the universe. So I love Zen Buddhist teachings. And I don't know if people know Buddha, but they don't know Buddha was a prince. His name was Siddhartha. So all these Buddhism, Jainism, they were all princes, and they left all that we crave for, the materialistic wealth, and they went and um, became the yogis, or Buddha became, and then they became enlightened. So in Zen Buddhist teachings, the circle, what does it represent? It represents heart sutra. Sutra normally it is not just a line of mantras repeated. It is a long verse of Sanskrit sentences, and they form like a mantra, and they are for inviting the goodness in your life and heart. So the circle symbolizes the Heart Sutra, which states form is empty. So pay attention. Form is empty, emptiness is the form. So the circle represents that at the root of all things is emptiness, yet emptiness does not mean nothing. It means releasing attachment to your perceptions and ideas and experiencing reality with an open mind. And this is the key to enlightenment. So, meaning you release the attachments to the end product, what you are wanting. Okay. And having an open mind. And you know what? This is so true in science. In science, it's exactly the same, that we cannot be attached to a result. We have to take the result as it comes. So, in a sense, and this is what the circle says, a circle says seeing reality as it really is. And as a scientist, I also have to see the reality or the product of my experiment as it really is. No matter what I want the end point to be, but if I'm a good scientist, I have to release my attachment to what I want the answer to be, and I have to see what the answer really is. So Basically, seeing reality as it really is and not what you believe or anticipate it to be. When you release your attachments and expectations of life, there are limitless potentials of what life can be, as is the nature of a circle. I think we should always try that. You can try it. I've tried it. And you will see it will point you to limitless potentials of your life as well. And that's the reason I wanted to make this video. So, the key to mandala drawing and painting is to not worry how to draw something, because energy flows from non local to subconscious mind to your hands and thus to your paper. So just draw, sorry, what feels good to you. Imagine this kind of freedom where there are no rules to follow, but there is no chaos, no walls, nothing, and you're free to just let the colors or pencils to just draw. Usually, there should not be, if we are told in a society, we are told that there are laws and we are only doing good things because there are laws, that is downfall of humanity. However, coming back to the mandala, when you are done, you will know and you will see everything fits in harmoniously. Every symbol you made, whether it's a triangle even, it has a place in that circle. Further, what is more important and wonderful is that no matter what you do, how hard you try, you cannot mess up the mandala that you're making or any intuitive art piece. The art will take over. When you start drawing and you just release all attachments, you will see the art will take over. It will demand to be drawn for the story to come out and be told. And secondly, this is the time for your healing to take place. Carl Jung had said, art is a kind of innate drive that seizes a human being and makes him its instrument. The artist is not a person endowed with free will who seeks his own ends, but one who allows art to realize its purpose through him. So, introducing the mandala, now I want to talk about how to use the mandala, how to reap its benefits. You don't always have to draw it. If you don't have the time or you don't feel inclined to draw a mandala, you don't have to. You could buy a mandala that calls to you. You can take any one of my designs from my Mandala Mondays and you could draw those, or you could buy those if you really want on a nice paper. But most important is your intention, faith, focus. So, whichever method of mandala you choose, what you do is, assume now you have the mandala that you liked. You clear your mind and you write your intention in simple, clear sentence. Because if you don't know what you want, you cannot have, or the universe cannot deliver it. So then you write that and look at the mandala and meditate on it every day, at least for 10 minutes. So the difference here, meditation and praying. So when you pray, you talk to the divine or the universe. But when you meditate, you receive answers because the divine or the universe talks to you. So meditate on the mandala, you remember what your wish is, and then you just let it go. You remove your attachment to the receiving of that wish. You leave it to the mandala to fulfill it. And sometimes our desires come true in a different form than what we are anticipating. So if you keep your mind clear and you're listening to yourself or the higher self, you will see your intentions have been fulfilled on divine timing and you can recognize those. So now, if you want to draw the mandala, I can go in brief, and then there are mandala Mondays. I have drawn the mandala. So this is how I suggest doing it, and this is my method. This is how I've always done it because of the black and white circles. Like I suggested, the significance of colors. So place the black paper and white pencils in front of you, and you touch them to bless them. Imagine that the radiant light from inside of you, which is your creative potential, it will be transferred onto the black paper. So black paper, we can call it as darkness, which is pre-creative. So while holding the pencils, you close your eyes and you visualize the energy of the white pencil infused and directed by inner light of your consciousness. One thing is that according to physics, everything is energy. We are energy, paper, pencil, everything is pure energy. So, and now that you are actually drawing light and energy. Okay, so you pick up your white pencil, place a dot in the black square papers. You can draw a dot first. It mirrors the spiritual center within you, which is the third eye. And around it is, I usually draw on an 8 by 10 paper, so maybe 18-inch, 17-inch circle. And in all healing and sacred art, all the materials are blessed before beginning. If you, so I used to play sitar, and if you have ever seen even the most notorious sitar players or any Indian instrument players, you will see they always bow to their instruments, to sitar, the tabla, or whatever they are playing. This is called taking their blessing and blessing the surface. Okay, so you can follow my video on blessing your art material meditation and receiving the symbol of your intentions to draw. And the meditation is to strengthen your will and mental power so they can distribute inner healing energies throughout the body. And then you draw from meditation, you just experience intuitively, and you have to focus intently. So I hope this whole thing makes sense and you've learned more on mandalas. But if you have any questions, please feel free to leave me a comment. You can always email me, you can always DM me, and I always answer. My intention is for all of you to understand what you're doing, or from mandala, if you're interested, that what it means, how to do it, and the right way to do it. And my goal is that everyone can actually get the desires they are wishing for. Okay, I'll see you next time. Thank you and have a great time understanding mandalas.